Barbara Ripley, who was a former guidance counselor at the elementary school for a number of years, lived here in town, and was a real valued member of our team. And Mr. Donald Morse, who was a longtime, I think you and I probably both had him for music in middle school, longtime music teacher and a good friend to Farmington. Both of them recently passed, so we extend our thoughts and prayers to their families. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't think we're going to have any public participation, so we will go into approval of minutes. November 6th, public session, 2018, right?
Nope, it was
17.
We haven't gotten there
November
yet.
6th?
Yes.
What happened? What did I miss?
Apparently,
We're not sure.
they weren't formally approved, so we're just bringing them back to make sure that all the i's are dotted.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to November 2018.
We have not, no, we're not
Sorry.
prognosticating.
It's possible that these were approved, but we don't have a record of it.
Oh,
So we're just making sure that
I
it's
didn't
done.
see
We
that in
went
the
through and
folder.
combed through all
It was in there.
Oh,
It was.
okay.
You probably thought
Yeah.
it was a typo, though.
Okay. Do I have a motion? So moved by Ms. McElhenney.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Cardinal. Discussion on these? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oosh. Okay. June 18th, non-public session 1.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Mrs. Cardinal and second by Mrs. Moran. Discussion on these?
I noted the one typo, teacher should be teachers, plural.
In which
Yes, I
paragraph?
saw that you noted that. Okay. All those in favor as amended? Aye. August 6th, public session, 2018.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Cardinal, second by Ms. McElhenney. Discussion on these. I think, Stan, you had some corrections, didn't you, on those?
I thought that was the one, I thought I pointed out that one.
Oh.
But
Can we-
I might have-
Yeah, you pointed out the other,
Oh,
on
that
the
is
other
the-
minutes, yep.
Can we,
Oh, it had a wrong date, I think.
There was a couple of dates that were off, not this one though. The real date is the 6th.
when it says to Mrs. Cardinal to strike the date, maybe of the agreement, needs
Yes.
to be added in there, because.
On page 2,
On page
3?
well, it says 3, but I must be missing some pages.
No, I think. Oh, yes, we apparently are missing 2 pages, 2 and 4. I mean, 2, yes, 2 and 4. Are they?
I don't
They're in the
have any pages
electronic
as well.
version, though, are they not?
And then there was the date change, right? We saw that.
Yeah.
This one, the date's fine.
This one was the
Yeah,
one,
you're
the other,
thinking of
it's
the
the other
non-publics.
ones where the date was set August 3rd.
Mr. Frieda pointed out that my name's missing from the attendees.
Oh, yes,
Sorry.
yes, yes.
But we all know I was there.
Anything else on these?
I don't know what was on the other 2 pages.
I'm looking.
The new auditor's name?
Plodzik and Sanderson?
Yeah, Plodzik is spelled Plodzzik. And that's all.
What are you looking for?
I was just double checking to see what
Okay.
we had in here for. Sure. Just making sure that the rest of it got uploaded like it was supposed to. And it did. So we just missed, probably it was double-sided. And it got
Okay.
missed in the scanning.
All right. All those in favor as amended? Aye. August 6th, 2018, non-public session 1.
I move to approve.
Move to approve by Mrs. Cardinal,
Second.
second by Mrs. Moran. Discussion on these.
I thought where I had recommended that the board discuss putting a public relations piece, maybe we needed to have, what Angie's ideas were on that, or that, maybe something that shows a little detail.
Are you talking about the,
This wasn't Angie's ideas, though.
That's not the same one?
No.
no.
Okay. Okay,
No, that was later on in public.
okay, thank you.
This is the
Yeah,
one that's
what she
dated
captured
August.
there was
This is the one that's
Yeah.
dated August 3rd, should be 6th.
Right.
up on
Yes.
the top.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Anything else? All those in favor as amended? Aye. Minutes from August 6, 2018, non-public session 2.
So moved.
It's moved by Mrs. Moore, second by Mrs. Cardinal. Discussion on these,
I
other
think
than the
it should
date?
be probably Linda's name instead of Zeke
And the date.
in the official minutes.
Right.
Yeah, in the official minutes, let's refer to Zeke as Linda.
Oh, okay.
That's her professional name.
Including the students.
Some people might say, who is that? But-
Yeah.
I was gonna say, who is that?
No,
I think it's
Linda,
fine to put Linda
a lot of
in
people
the
don't know
right
it's Linda.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Yeah, I didn't, and one day it was, yeah.
Who did the motion?
That's what-
I'm sorry, I missed that.
The motion was Mrs. Moore and the second by Mrs. Cardinal.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor as amended? All right. In minutes from August 6, 2018, non-public session 3. So moved by Mrs. McElhenney, second by
And I
Mrs.
second.
Cardinal.
This is the date on top, too.
Date needs to be changed on this one. Anything else? All those in favor as amended?
Aye.
Okay.
Consistency and our inconsistencies.
New business. We have some policies to look at.
The policies that are here are boilerplate. They did not necessarily go through the policy committee, so I want to have that up front. The school meals program change it, that shouldn't be, yeah, it's charges, not changes. We have an old policy that's in place. This is updated with the current language that the USDA requires, and as we're getting things updated for the website for the new school year. And this also includes, oops, I need to fill in the check mailed to on that. It also includes the section that the board had voted on as far as if students are allowed to charge if they have an outstanding balance. That's included within this policy, rather than having it be just a separate board vote.
Mhm.
It's included in the policy.
And did you have your question answered?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
All right.
Still awkward, but.
I think that's very proactive about this policy versus what some of our practices have been in the past, is the letter notifying families that their student, their account is getting low before it becomes zero or negative. I think is going to prove to save us a lot of headache at the end of the school year.
And sometimes that's going to be tough to do if there's only a $5 balance on there to get a letter out. There's probably going to be a miss.
Yeah.
But if, some families will put a fairly large balance on there, and we can, when it hits a level, send out the letter.
I was wondering, in that regard, though, can we do anything electronically as well?
The list gets generated, and then it goes to a mail merge where it goes out, so we're not typing individual letters for each one. We can email to some extent, but again, it has student information, it has, the account numbers on it, it has the balances, so we have to be careful what we email. We can do some of that, but
Expediency, it would be, and easier for parents they always get emails, and letters, they're lost.
Perhaps we could send an email saying, please check your account balance.
yes, yeah,
Could be that simple.
yeah.
It at least probes them, and then in addition, a printed out letter goes home in the backpack with the students, so we don't spend on postage.
Right.
We could do that, and the policy, allows for that, like that.
Well, motion to accept it as a final read.
Motion by Mrs. Moore to accept as a final read, second by Mr. Frieda. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And then
Non-discrimination,
Yep.
USDA
the
non-discrimination.
USDA non-discrimination statement is one that we have had in our, there it is. It's in our policy list, but it doesn't have a date that it was approved. And so if this is something, and more or less included at the end of this one anyway, but because we had a separate statement, either we need to decide that we're going to scrap this because it's subsumed here, or have a date that this was approved, either way. So,
I move to approve as a final read.
Motion by Mrs. Cardinal and a second by Mr. Frieda to accept as a final read. Discussion?
Where it has a policy code, I like keeping it as a separate policy. It helps us in terms of, for the policy committee, making sure that we have up-to-date
right.
when we take a look at the master list that the state puts out.
It's also easier for people to find this by itself. rather than
That's
bringing
true,
it.
yeah, rather than buried at the bottom of a five-page
Right.
policy, correct.
Okay, I was just double checking and making sure that
They're similar,
they're exact.
yeah, yeah.
Because sometimes that can be confusing. All those in favor?
Aye.
And then this last one is one that is strongly recommended both by our School Boards Association and by our auditors to have this as part of our policy bank. So it is fairly broad as far as ethics go. And it's tied back to the RSAs, and this was boilerplate from School Boards Association.
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Frieda to
Final.
approve as a final read, second by Ms. McElhenney. Discussion?
How do we, just in terms of enforcing this policy, if you will, how do we explain, because this is extensive, the 5th bullet down calls for obey all local, state, and national laws. So that's like an obvious, a given, I think.
Well, I think probably,
How do we support our staff members in providing them with knowledge of what the local, state, and federal laws are?
certainly they have access to anything that's within the ed regulations. State and local laws, I mean, that's kind of a citizen's duty to know and understand what you're supposed to be doing. And as far as enforcing where this goes, we do have a clause within our contract that anyone who is convicted of a felony, within 24 hours of my knowledge, it's a dismissal. If there are other issues involved, I mean, it could certainly rise to dismissal. It's not an automatic, but it's a, so we have some,
I guess my question would be, who's the judge of whether they're being just and courteous? Yeah.
I think that probably goes more along to the civility policy than,
Okay.
obviously, if someone has a bad day and makes a smart remark, it's not going to necessarily jeopardize.
Well,
Yeah.
again,
But, yeah.
it depends on who's judging.
So,
I guess I would look at it from another point of view. I don't think we're going to be policing this as a, whether or not they obey. But if something should happen and somebody does get caught for a misdemeanor that's not dismissible, a dismissal of offense, and then maybe if there's public outcry or something, and we have nothing, we can't let them go because we don't have a policy that says that they can't break any law. So this sort of gives us reason to look at them and at least bring them in for some kind of corrective action, rather than just have them say, well, it's not, we don't have a policy, I could commit a misdemeanor if I want to, as long as it doesn't hurt
I also
kids,
think-
the government doesn't care.
I also think this is probably a good policy to include
staff handbook.
in a substitute handbook,
Absolutely.
in a coaching handbook.
Yes.
You know, a lot of those folks are not full-time employees of the district, they do stipend positions, and sometimes it's a good reminder that we care about your
Ours
conduct
Even when you're not here.
inside and out,
Absolutely.
you know? So,
If you represent us, you represent us whether you're on campus or not.
yeah.
Right.
One,
I'm going to vote no.
one other thing, and I can bring this up at the next workshop that I attend with the School Boards Association too, to get their kind of, their take on it, but public employees are protected under additional laws, more
Yes.
so than your First
RSA
Amendment
98E.
rights. When it comes to being able to speak freely and exercise free speech. So I just want to make sure that, I think it should be referenced here under legal references, that law.
First Amendment?
No,
No,
it's
the,
RSA
RSA
98E.
98E, thank you.
Wow. Nice.
That would be the, in New Hampshire in particular, and this only applies to public employees.
Ask me how I know that.
They have additional protections under state law when it comes to free speech.
And this was boilerplate from
Yeah.
NHSBA, so.
Yeah, so I think I'll bring it up with them next time. So
When
you
is-
could see a
when-
revision
when is-
next season.
Oh, okay. So it wouldn't be something that would affect us potentially adopting this early?
Unless, I mean, we could
No, we would
certainly
just have
put
to,
in.
if we had a situation where we were,
Employees
We could
will,
bring it back up
exercise,
for
you know, a
review.
reminder, employees are protected by RSA 98E in,
We can add that to our policy.
we could add it.
let me pull it up real quick. So maybe we need a second read on this one.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion for a first read? I don't think.
Well, we have a
would.
motion for final on the
We have a
table.
motion
I didn't
for
think,
final.
did we have a motion
Yep.
for a final already?
Stan and Linda, yes.
Oh.
Do you want to amend
You want to
that?
amend that motion for
Sure.
first?
Sure.
Just
Is
so we
that
can
okay
look
with-
into that.
Okay. All those in favor of a first read? Aye?
Aye.
Was that fine?
Yeah.
So if you want to include this one again on the next agenda,
Okay.
I'll try to get an answer from the state association before then.
That'll be the 10th.
Any other new business, folks? Any other new business with them?
The only other new business was the social media pieces, Angie, if you want to do that now, or do you
Sure.
want
Yeah,
to? Okay.
well, definitely, so last meeting, at the very end, we were in public session, but we talked about some regularly scheduled, planned communications, and then the idea of using social media, different platforms. We didn't discuss the different platforms, but specifically Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn, to have more of a presence, to communicate out status of things going on. And the first one would be a welcome back for staff, sort of notification, introducing new leadership that we have in place, and, you know, just generate some excitement. And so I shared with the board a list of ideas of which topics, you know, and the timing of which. Mr. Freya added some more ideas on there. But we can definitely move forward with the first one on that first topic. But I'm not sure if, you know, it would be proper to have a motion and a vote to go ahead and establish social media accounts for the school district.
And the
to that
question
Do we have them
that
already?
came up, we have, each of the schools has a Facebook account. You know, Angie had volunteered to establish some of those accounts, and I wanted a board vote because I can't direct her to do, and she doesn't work for me. And so I wanted to make sure that that was direction, not that I didn't think you wanted the information to go out, but the establishment of those accounts and who the account holder is. I just wanted clarification from this group before I went ahead and said, oh, go ahead, because it's not my call, and I can't direct Angie to or not to do. So,
So you're willing to start it, but who's going to follow through and be admins on the account?
Well, I would recommend that we generate a generic account, like make a specific SAU61.org email address for this purpose, and then share the password with those that we want to do the postings. Or we could start it with that, or one of us could start it with our SAU account, and then just add those admins according to who you would like to have. I mean, ideally, who would have news regarding the entire district? You, of course, Mr. Gazer, of course, possibly our transportation coordinator. our facilities director, if they ever became comfortable with, you know, writing up and posting and communicating out district-wide items. Because, like she said, each school has a Facebook. I think Henry Wilson now has an Instagram as well. And they're starting to use that more and more. The high school one went by the wayside for the last year, and I have it scheduled to assist our dean on getting that back up to speed. But of course, we have the athletics one, and that has done so well. I think it's now time to have one when it comes to the business side of the school, the curriculum, academics, and start shining a light, just like we did with athletics. And
The
boosters
athletics one
did it.
is private, is.
It's
is
boosters,
it-
it's not
Well,
ours.
no, it's a private citizen, right?
Right.
The
Well-
Farmington Tigers
Yeah, but
Facebook page.
as a member of the boosters, right?
Right, but
Yeah.
the
But we don't
administrator
control it.
is that individual, and I believe the athletic director is allowed to. I just think you have to, I think you can't go too crazy with people who have access.
Yes.
And the only reason why is, if we do, that's fine, but I think then, when you get to that point, I think everything has to kind of go through Ruth Ellen.
Yeah.
If for anything else, proofreading.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's great to have an idea to throw something on social media, and then there's a couple typos, and then someone's like, oh, look at this. Typos on a school,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you know, and, you know, so.
Yeah.
But, so I don't, Stan,
No, finish your thought.
no, that, I'm done.
Oh, I sort of envisioned that we would have like a one-pager with the topic all written, and it would be shared on different, that we wouldn't put it right in, onto the media by itself, that we would have something that would be sort of more or less approved by Ruth Ellen. This is our week's
So like
topic.
Ruth Ellen would put it out on our social media?
Or if there was a social media, I like Angie's idea of the social media at SAU 61, and having someone be responsible, or a couple of people be responsible for logging into that account, so it always comes from that account and not from a separate person. Some of them tell you who posts, and we should probably establish that.
I took a look at what other school boards do. I found Stratford School Board has a Facebook page. There was one other, I forget which one. They switch between it being all about school board business, and others make it about the district, you know, the district-wide communications. So you can tell that one is definitely a superintendent's point of view, and the other is definitely a chairperson of the board point of view. I asked around, you know, do you think it was a good thing? And they said it was absolutely a good thing, because you reach the people who don't have time or interest in reading through minutes or watching the video of our meetings. And just the quick read, you know, and it pulled them in to want to know more and want to learn more and engage more.
Oh, I think it's a great idea. I
Yeah,
just
I'm-
think the logistics of it.
Yeah, I'm certainly
Yeah,
not
right.
opposed to the idea. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't approve a process
Yeah.
that wasn't necessarily mine to approve. I wanted to make sure we were in agreement, so.
I would say probably not more than 2 admins.
To begin with anyway,
begin
yeah,
with
just to
anyway,
see
yeah.
how it goes.
At least get it started,
Yeah,
and sort of decide how that's.
I'll make the motion that
Seems
we.
working.
Oh,
Are you okay with all 4 of those platforms? Do you want to start with 1 or
maybe
2?
let's just
and then?
start with 2. I don't know which 2, but,
What to,
Because what's
I was-
nice about all of those is they're all interlinked as well.
yeah,
I mean, you
So
could do
it's
kind
really
of a
the
feed
work
where
of
it goes,
one,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
and it
Oh.
populates them
yeah,
all.
I guess it doesn't really matter, because not everybody, I mean, I don't have some of those, I don't have Instagram.
Those are the top 4, so
Yeah,
you'd hit the majority of the
Broad.
people.
yeah.
I'm not recommending Snapchat.
No,
The unicorn eyes.
all right, so how do we want to word that motion, Mrs. Bowen?
To allow 2 people, do we want to determine who those 2 admins are?
I don't know if that should be part of the motion.
If it's,
Because, I'll
Or
tell you why.
because later on,
Well, because if, I mean, if, let's say the topic is budget related, or there's some kind of, you know, you'd want Mark to be looking over that information for, if it's curriculum related, you'd want Melissa to take a look. I don't know, I just
I
feel
think,
like,
no, I just meant
but
those
as far
are
as,
the 2
as
people
far as
that would
who
put it
who
on
hits
there.
go live
Right.
piece.
Oh, I
That's what
see.
I mean.
Yeah.
Oh, I
That's
see.
what I mean.
Yeah, okay, so.
Not,
Yeah, so
but
I'll-
like Mark
Could
would
make it
send
so
it,
that- Oh, I'm sorry.
sorry, Mark would send it to Ruth Ellen, or
Yeah.
Melissa would send her a blurb, or Angie would send her a blurb. Well, you like, but that specific people would be the,
Why don't we make a motion to allow Mrs. Cardinal, since she's volunteered, to begin those platforms, those 4 platforms that you mentioned, which was Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. In conjunction, in cooperation with Ms. Vaughn.
that sounds good.
And, as it progresses, if we have to address anything, we can, but see how that's gonna work.
We can certainly take this up in the policy committee and develop policy and then a process.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That the board can look at.
So is that an okay motion?
Yes,
That's a
yes.
motion by Mrs. Moran. Do I have a
Thank you
second?
for putting those out there for me.
Second by Ms. McElhenney.
Do you need it restated?
Motion by Penny to allow Mrs. Cardinal to begin 4 social medias in conjunction with
For social media platform
Platforms,
accounts.
platform accounts,
Yeah.
in conjunction with.
Does that
Mrs.
sound all
Vaughn.
right?
And do we need Jen to set up a social media email?
Yeah.
Do we
I
need
like
to
public
get permission?
relations at SA61.org.
Something like
I
that.
can do that.
Ooh, yeah, that's good.
That is nice.
Public relations at
Yeah.
SA61.org.
I guarantee that's not taken yet.
I'll say that was a
Alright.
motion and a second by Ms. McElhenney. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Nice.
Whole business roof update. Hey,
So at this point,
Just take
with
their
our
glasses
rains-
off.
Well, just looking down to see what I'm,
Business.
the rain over the weekend, we stayed dry.
oh,
Nice.
So that was, yeah,
was
because
waiting.
Friday night I was kind of going,
yeah. I was gonna say,
coming in
who's gonna
around my
find out?
air conditioner, this isn't good. But it stayed dry here, so, the school office is they have most things put back in now. There's still a few things in the lobby, but those hopefully will be gone tomorrow. And, so 1 week in counting, but we should be able to get the library looking more like a library and the office looking more like an office and phones back where they belong and all that good stuff, so.
Good.
It's been a long summer. The custodial and maintenance crew have been amazing in their efforts to get everything back together, and our weather hasn't helped, not only with the additional rains, but because it's been so muggy, trying to get floors dried has been just, it isn't happening. And there's been some late nights and some long hours, and they've done a really, really good job. And so they are greatly appreciated. Can't say enough for the crew. They've been awesome. So,
A question regarding that. There was I can't even remember when this was discussed at board meeting, but like in terms of the procedure that you use and the philosophy that you follow when it comes to compensating people for their time, whether it be extra time off later on or whatnot, where is that document? I've been trying to find it.
there's not so much, labor laws are pretty much, comp time isn't necessarily looked on all that favorably.
Yeah.
It's really more in terms of if they work more than 40 hours, we need to
overtime,
compensate
yeah.
them with the overtime. And so we've been trying to judiciously play that out a little bit to see where things fall, but also looking at, got to get it done. So I'll have
But I
a,
remember we reviewed a document. Didn't we? It wasn't there, it was specifically, we were talking about principals having to call in substitutes and whatnot.
that was, we looked at the handbook that was in place for the non-bargaining agreement folks.
Yeah, oh, okay.
And we looked at the labor law next to that.
Right,
So-
okay. All right, so the
Yeah.
handbook has been adjusted then?
It's in process, but yes,
Okay.
and that practice is being adjusted, so.
Great, okay, so that's what Larry can refer to, Mr. Gordon can refer to when
Well,
he's
and the
trying to figure
custodians
out.
are under a collective bargaining agreement, which is, it sets out, here's the wages, here's the time, here's what we do, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's it for roof? Sorry.
That's it for roof, and we kind of did the high school office along with that,
Oh,
so.
yeah.
And the Drain insets have been, for the most part, completed. We did have another issue with the gutters out front, and we think we've got most of that somewhat in hand. They're going to cap off a section and then do an external gutter instead of, there's an internal gutter by the main office. For some reason, we can't figure out why it was done, if it was aesthetics, that somebody didn't want something outside on the front of the building, but it's
imagine any
caused
other
some
reason.
issues when we have the deluge come through and suddenly it's coming in at the bottom. So that's being capped off, and it looks like we're going to be able to avoid ripping off the front of the wall and having to replace the bricks. So that's a good thing, because the last time that happened.
Just run a new gutter and bypass the existing system?
And, yeah, so.
Any other old business?
I'm just reporting that I did register to go to the legislative update
Oh, great.
meeting on Thursday. So I'll be there for that School Boards Association workshop.
Awesome. I think I'd like to plan, since on that topic, I'd like to plan to attend the SB2 and default budget session that they're having. There was a bill signed into law that affects how we prepare default budgets, so I wanted to attend that as well and understand, but both of those are covered under the cost of our new training subscription.
And the good news is that the primary provision of that, we already did last year,
Yeah.
just because it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So we're ahead of the game there. So,
There is the Kidder Law Conference.
mhm.
Were you planning on attending?
I'm going to try.
It's all there.
Yeah, we have, usually do season tickets written into our professional development grant too, so that we have room for at least a couple of administrators to go.
Okay.
I'm hoping I can get us both there. We'll see if he's come up for air yet.
Yeah.
So,
Very cool.
and just very quick announcement too, for Krista McAuliffe Conference. Betsy Jacobson and I have been approved to present on our student forum that we had with the police chief and the commissioners last spring. We're going to be doing a forum on student voice.
Nice.
So,
That's
great.
Excellent.
So, that'll be in November.
Anything other? Can we just quickly talk about September board? Did we talk about this? I feel like we did we set dates already?
10th and 17th,
Okay.
unless you want to change it.
No, I think that the concern was the 17th running into any kind of an open house or anything?
Typically, Henry Wilson and Valley View are both doing their open houses the night before school, so they'll
Okay.
be on the 27th.
Yeah.
And generally, the high school has been the second Tuesday of the month. So that would be on the 11th instead of the 10th. So
Okay.
we should
Okay.
avoid them.
So, okay, so we have nobody here, so there'll be no public participation. Is there anything else from the board?
Nope.
Okay, so our next regular meeting will be September 10th, because September 3rd is obviously Labor Day, which is a holiday for our staff. And then we'll also have a regular public meeting on September 17th. I felt like there was one thing I wanted to say. Now I'm spaced. So with that, I will thank you all for viewing tonight and entertain a motion to go into non-public session one. Actually,
Probably
I'm gonna-
nominations and resignations.
I'm going to ask us to go into non-public session under RSA 91A:3, 2, A, B, and C for nominations and resignations.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Moore and second by Mrs. Cardinal. All those in favor by roll? Aye. Good night, folks.